Perfect. I'll now write the full, long-form HOA revenge story titled HOA said my animals were illegal, my sister was FBI, and shut down their board. It will follow the 7-step structure you provided. Maintain the first-person calm narrative. Tone, and stay within the 2,000 to 3,000 word range, beginning now. Please wait a moment while I draft the full story. Here is the complete long-form HOA revenge story based on your title. I didn't say a word when the HOA president barked that my goats were a violation of residential harmony. I just pulled out the federal memorandum my sister handed me that morning, sealed, time-stamped, with the Department of Justice letterhead. I slid it across the table during the monthly board meeting. The room fell silent, except for the sound of her fingernail nervously tapping the edge of her coffee cup. But to understand how we got there, I need to take you back a bit. When I first bought the place, it was supposed to be my sanctuary. Spent 22 years working long shifts at a city water plant, dreaming of open land, no traffic, and enough quiet to hear birds instead of backup alarms. My little corner of rural retirement was 10 acres of gentle hills, a pond, and a small barn. That had seen better days. It came with the remnants of an old fence and, most importantly, no immediate neighbors within shouting distance. Or so I thought. I never intended to raise a farm. But after a few months, I picked up a couple of goats from a nearby rescue, then a few chickens. A stray dog adopted me not long after. It was never commercial, just a handful of animals a bit. A fencing repair and the kind of peace city life never gave me. I didn't even know there was an HOA when I moved in. My realtor had mentioned something vague, but the paperwork seemed minimal, and the prior owner hadn't said a word. That changed about a year in, when a woman named Caroline showed up in my driveway in a tan blazer and perfectly ironed khakis, holding a clipboard like it was a sword. "You're in violation," she said, gesturing toward the goats. "For what?" I asked. "Section 4.2 non-domestic livestock prohibited on community lots." I raised an eyebrow. "This isn't a community lot. This is private agricultural land." She smiled. "The association extends into agricultural zones due to an annex filed in 2008. I didn't sign anything in 2008. I wasn't even living here in 2008. She handed me a copy of the violation notice. A $500 fine, due in 10 days. I spent the next few days trying to understand what the hell had just happened. I found the HOA's website poorly made and password protected and dug into the bylaws they claimed gave them authority. The annex she mentioned was real, but it was unsigned by the original property owners and had no formal recording at the county level. It's just a scanned PDF and a newsletter from 2009 saying, "We welcome the outer parcels to our community family. Cute." Emailed the board. No reply. I showed up to a meeting. They said public comments weren't allowed without advance notice, so I called my sister now. Here's where things get interesting. See, my sister Lauren doesn't talk about her job much. Knew she worked for the federal government somewhere, under the Department of Justice umbrella, but we'd always kept work separate from family. When I told her what was going on, she just asked one thing. "Are they threatening legal action?" "Yeah," I said. "They say if I don't pay the fines, they'll seek lien proceedings." She paused. "Send me everything." A week later, she called me back. "You've got a bad faith HOA with unrecorded annex authority, a history of targeting rural owners, and no proper county filing. I'm opening a review." I blinked. "A review?" She didn't elaborate. Just told me to keep documenting everything and not respond to any more letters. The next week, the fines increased. They said my goats were a nuisance. The neighbors had complained about smells and sounds. I only had 2 goats, and the nearest neighbor was a quarter-mile away, an older man who brought me squash every week and loved the goats. They started sending certified letters. One threatened to report me to the county health department. Another accused me of running an unlicensed farm. They even taped a notice to my gate saying I was under investigation by the HOA enforcement committee. That's when I stopped fixing fences and started pulling records. I got my original deed. It included the agricultural exemption. It's verified by the county clerk. I tracked down the 2008 annex, never signed by my parcel's former owners, and never officially notarized. I pulled satellite imagery showing the property had housed livestock, going back 2 decades, but I didn't send it to the HOA. I sent it to Lauren. 2 weeks later, she showed up unannounced. She wore jeans, sneakers, and a windbreaker with no insignia. She gave me a hug and said, "You'll want to attend next. Tuesday's board meeting." Why? She handed me a manila envelope. "Just bring this. Slide it across the table when they threaten you again." She didn't say anything else, just smiled, so that Tuesday I showed up. The board sat behind a long folding table in the rec center. Caroline was at the center, smug as ever, surrounded by 2 older men and a younger guy tapping notes into his laptop. When they saw me, Caroline rolled her eyes. "You again? You've been warned about unauthorized animals?" "You didn't say a word," she kept going. "Due to continued violations and refusal to comply, we're escalating to formal proceedings. The association will be seeking an injunction and daily penalties." That's when I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on Department of Justice. Letterhead stating that the HOA in question was under federal review for possible violations of land use law, property misrepresentation, and overreach into exempt agricultural parcels. Attached was a memo from the state attorney's office, temporarily halting all enforcement actions pending review. Caroline went silent. The younger guy stopped typing. "Hell is this?" she asked. "My sister works for the DOJ," I said calmly. "She's handling the review. You'll be hearing from her office by the end of the week." She snatched the letter, scanned it, looked visibly pale. I walked out. 3 months later, Caroline stepped down from the board. The HOA issued a public statement admitting procedural inconsistencies and rescinded all fines issued to exempt parcels. Several other landowners came forward with similar story threats over animals, gardening, even mailbox height. The county declined to press charges but permanently stripped the HOA of enforcement authority over any parcel not originally part of the 2003 charter. Mine wasn't. Never had been now. Now I sip my coffee on the porch while my goats nap in the shade. The neighbors wave or keep to themselves. No more letters. No more fines. No more clipboard visits. I saw Carolyn once at the feed store. She looked down and hurried past me without a word. That's fine. I didn't buy this land to fight. I bought it to breathe. But I'll say this. If you try to push people around just because you have a title on a piece of paper, make sure the person you're pushing doesn't have a sister who works for the feds. Because sometimes, all it takes is one envelope to shut down your entire board. Would you like the YouTube description, thumbnail text, and SEO tags for this story next?